And we're live. Hello, Maurizio, Danforth, Franz, Suzanne, Mario. Hey, hi. How are you all? I'm seeing all those hearts. Thank you. Hi, Donald from Indonesia. Hello, Crazy Craft Lady 79. Yes. Hey, hi. I see all those highs and I thank you so much. Hello. Yes, Germany. Sending good thoughts for Hong Kong. Thank you so much. From South Korea, from California, from San Francisco. Hello, Noga from Pittsburgh. Well, Noga's not from Pittsburgh, but there's a hello from Pittsburgh. Noga from Orlando. Elizabeth, hi. From Spain, hi. Thank you all for tuning in. This is USkTalks coming to you again from Hong Kong. It is midnight, and again, you guys are starting my week off in the best way possible. Thank you for the good vibes. Thank you all for joining us. Now, I gotta ask you, do you all agree? And if you do, send me a whole bunch of hearts. Do you all agree that urban sketching is a source of joy? Let's see. Do you agree? Yes. If it's yes for you, say something in the comments and give me a whole bunch of hearts. Do you agree that urban sketching is a source of joy? I don't know about you, but it definitely is. Okay, yes. Thank you for all those hearts. Some of you have known on the news there's been lots of things happening in Hong Kong, and I did a post today. And I tell you, I was feeling so bad an hour ago, but you guys have made my day, and you have made it, you start my week in the best way possible. So thank you all for joining in. Thank you for joining USkTalks. Thank you for your support. And we have a great show for you today. We're talking about urban sketching for good, and there's so many ways to do that. Look at all those hearts. Thank you. What we're going to talk about today is how urban sketching can serve as a means of positive change. How can we move communities? How can we move the world? We're going to explore today different ways that sketchers can use their talents, their energy, and their time to change the world. Yes. So first up, I'm sure that you have seen the posters, so you know first up we have our lovely USK director, Rita Sabler, and we have Mike Daikubara, both coming to us from the US, and they've got amazing things to talk to us about and share with us. So let's get going. First up, our USK director, Rita, who's got some amazing stories to share with us. And she's going to talk to us about how she's used urban sketching to highlight hidden histories, to talk about marginalized societies, and how urban sketching can bring about societal change. Now, if that is not current and that is not relevant now, I do not know what is. Thank you all so much again for all those hearts. Let's get things going. Let's bring Rita on and let's get the
Look what I got
that's
for
awesome.
you. You know what these are?
that is stunning. Are those
This,
peonies? Are those
yeah,
peonies?
yeah.
My goodness.
So
Phew, I've never seen such huge ones.
these are for you and for Lapan,
Oh,
because we're big fans of
oh.
peonies.
Thank
So
you.
they're
That's
blossoming right now for just a blink. They're
wow,
very,
really?
yeah,
Are they from your garden?
yes.
Oh my
I
goodness.
love
Wow,
them.
that is stunning. Yeah, well, I can see why. They're absolutely stunning. Yeah. Well, our education director, it's good to see you. Everyone, our education director, Rita Sabler.
Hello,
So,
hello.
big welcome for Rita. Let's see some highs in the comments. Let's see a whole bunch of hearts for Rita. I mean, she is helping to run. She's taken over the helm from Mario Linares, and she is running education in urban sketches now. So thank you so much, Rita, for yes. Look at all those hearts just
Hello,
for you.
Rashid.
Yeah,
Hello.
we
Thank you,
got
thank
some
you, thank you.
amazing people. Yes, and okay. So, Rita, for those who do not know you, and there can't be very many people, can you do a quick introduction so everyone knows where you're coming from and who you are?
Who I am. So I am a reportage artist and an
Hmm.
educator, and I
Hmm.
live in Portland, Oregon, which is on the west coast of the United States.
Hmm. Okay.
And I have the I have, it's not a very well-known place, but it's earned its place in the illustrious history of urban sketchers as being the site of
First.
the first symposium.
Right, right. Were you there in Portland when during that first symposium?
I sure was.
Oh,
2009. Yeah, of course.
wow. Fantastic. Okay. That's so good to know. I mean, I wish that I had that history. Well, it's never too late. For those of you who've never been to symposium, it is never too late. Always start, just, jump on the first one when the next one is available. But okay, Rita, so you have such amazing stories to share with us today. And it was your idea to talk about urban sketching for good. So can you tell us about that inspiration and how it came about, please?
With pleasure. So, just as you said, urban sketching is such a source of joy for all of us who practice, who draw. But can we also use it to make our world a better place, to bring about social change, to bring attention to history, to marginalized communities? And I'm very lucky to speak on this topic and talk about my little projects, but Urban Sketchers is one of the most amazing, generous communities that I've ever belonged to. From
So
local
agree.
admins who organize all of our sketch crawls, to the board, who many of whom served for many years, to our amazing instructors who volunteer their time to teach at symposiums. And they're of course the community grant workshop program that Mike will be talking about later. I want to do a shout out to USK Paris. They've been doing some amazing volunteer projects with different communities like kids from poor families, prisoners. So there's just so much goodness everywhere. And once again, I feel lucky to belong to this community and to speak on this subject.
Yeah, I absolutely hear you. I mean, I think just looking through the feed and talking to urban sketchers on social media every day, that is my highlight. And that really makes my day. It lifts me up when I'm not feeling good, and I'm sure a lot of you feel that as well. So, Rita, how do you think that urban sketching like this can bring about positive change?
So, what I wanted to talk about specifically is how our drawings themselves can be a source of good in the
Mhm.
world. And there are many ways to do it, and many ways to kind of, you just have to turn your mind in that direction. And what we do as artists, as sketchers, is very visible because drawing is so unique. It's a difficult skill to master. So what we do earns a lot of respect, earns a lot of attention just by the very nature of what it is. Now, urban sketchers in particular are witnesses because we draw what we see from our observation. So when people see that we're in a place on a street corner for many hours, or we're interviewing or talking to a subject, they know that this is not something that we made up in our imagination or that it promotes
Mhm.
a certain type of view. It's what we witnessed. So what we do has a lot of power. And
Yeah,
just go ahead.
go ahead, please. Yeah, no, I was just about to say
Just
that,
to,
we have a very important voice in the community
yes.
in the world today.
Yeah.
But
And so
yes,
just
please
one
continue.
example that comes to mind that I think everybody still has pretty fresh because we're living it right now is the grassroots USK at Home campaign. So if you remember, in the first days of the pandemic, people started sketching their kitchens, their cats, their family members.
Right?
All of a sudden we went from sketching busy urban centers into drawing our internal world and tagging it with USK at home. So in a way, you can argue that this was the public health awareness campaign, because for those of us who weren't very quick to understand that there was a huge danger and something was different, changing in the world, this kind of was a huge clue that pay attention. So even if our governments weren't paying attention, our sketchers from other parts of the world were telling us, watch out.
Yeah. Keep an eye out. Things are happening. Okay,
Yes.
so I really want to talk to you about the examples that you have about how you've used your voice as an open sketcher as a megaphone. And I really like that catchphrase as well, a megaphone, a very powerful one too. So let's dive right into it.
Let's
What are you going to share with us today? What stories? What powerful stories?
All right. Well, one project that is, once again, has a lot of relevance to what we're living right now. And that is a project that I did in, I think, 2017, 18, so a couple of years ago. And that's the story of Kalaupapa settlement. So for those who don't know, this was 100-year-long quarantine on the island of Molokai. And in a way, it still continues because there's still a handful of patients living there. But people with Hansen's disease, commonly known as leprosy, were sent here sometimes by mistake. They were suspected of having the disease, so they were sent here in isolation. And the isolation was created by the nature itself, because there are no roads that lead to this place. It's very, very difficult to get here. So initially they were kind of left to fend for themselves. Eventually some structures were built. So we're looking at the community kitchen with that big chimney. And the structure to the left is a housing for the severely blind and the infirm. So patients lived there, and they had their community kitchen. They had some activities. Yeah, it's a very, very special place. And I know that we're all getting a little tired of the quarantine. It's been going on for a few months, but talk about a really long quarantine of 100 years.
Wow.
So right now, the Kalaupapa is managed by the national park. And what they're trying to do, in addition to kind of preserve the heritage of that place, is to restore the native plants, vegetation of the island, because it's also been severely affected by all the invasive species. So there are a lot of volunteers working on replanting native plants.
That's it. I mean, your work is really stunning, and you've brought such beauty. I mean, this is some people don't. I don't know whether you caught it. This is in Hawaii, and you'd think of it as like a holiday destination. And the way that you sensitively brought out the beauty of the place and paired that with the story, it's really quite stunning, Rita. Thank you.
Thank
Oh,
you.
please go on, tell it. Tell us more.
So this is one of the areas, a coastal vegetation restoration area. So this area is completely closed off. You can't go there, unfortunately. But if you could witness the amazing comeback of the native plants when they're kind of cared for, and this is a process where they come back because they take away the invasive species animals that eat them up. So these plants are coming back, and it's just this amazing symphony of color and beautiful, hopefully almost original vegetation.
Can you tell us like how you came to go to this place? How did you know about it, and how did you arrange to go there and document this place?
Yes, so this is something that I heard. My mom had a chance to visit this place, I think in the 90s, and she came back and she told us about it, and it just captured my imagination that there's this place that's completely cut off from the world by this highest sea cliffs in the world. And there's a community of patients with Hansen's disease who live there. And I always had this in the back of my mind, always wanted to go and witness this place for myself. And as years went by, I actually met someone who works for the park. And so there was a lot of arranging and it's difficult to go there.
Synchronizing.
Yes,
Yeah, I
it
can
worked
imagine.
out.
And for those of you who are not aware of it, go to Rita's IG page. Her Instagram account has got a little video on her. I'm just going to put up Rita's Instagram later as well, so you can take a shot. Go there. She's got a little video that you should watch to give you an idea how beautiful this place is, how remote it is. Thank you for posting that. I just saw the video. It was stunning, stunning.
Yeah.
Okay,
And so
so
I see a quick question about the patients. Everybody always asks this.
you
The
break
disease
it a
was
tiny bit.
yes, you did
Those of
too.
you find, yeah, okay, so we both broke up just a tiny bit. Yeah, but we're back. We're back. So for those of you who just joined us, we're on USkTalks. We're talking to Rita Sabler, our USK Education Director, and she's talking about how we can do use urban sketching for good. She's telling us about this project she did in Hawaii in Kalaupapa. Please, Rita, continue and tell us about this. This is truly fascinating, and it is not just any collection of shoes to our viewers. Take it away, Rita. Tell us.
So these are shoes from former patients. The disease affects your feet, so they kind of had to rig their own footwear um, to fit to fit them better, to make them more comfortable. And so this was very special. These people are gone, but their footwear remains sort of as a reminder of them. And each shoe kind of tells a story
Tell us
of
about
their.
these casts. Yeah.
Yeah, so eventually, as the kind of care improved overall for the patients, they sent a specialist who was able to create molds of their feet. So these are actual
Hmm.
molds of the actual patients and create footwear that would fit them better.
Wow. Okay.
But everything is
It's
very, very rudimentary there because, like I said, there's not a lot of ways to bring supplies. So everything is kind of recycled and redone from what they have. All the building
mm-hmm.
materials are usually taken from the existing structures and they just rebuild things from
Wow.
those.
And repurpose and adapt. Wow,
Absolutely. Yeah.
that it's so touching. It's really moving looking at all this. And I assume that this is part of their transportation system.
So this was an inventive company. One of the patients created a company to do little tours around the settlement for tourists, and he used an old fleet of buses. And since there's no auto mechanic or anything like that, when they break, he would fix them. Sometimes literally with just banana leaves and glue
Duct
and
tape.
things like that. Duct tape, exactly. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. That is amazing. Yeah. Going on.
Yeah, and
Yeah. And you've got such
this is the
wonderful sketches.
thank you. And this is the original church that Father Damien built. Those in Belgium probably know about Father Damien. He went there to work with his patients. He's done amazing things for them. Unfortunately, he also contracted the disease and died of it later. And
Oh, so sad.
he was initially buried next to this church because that was his Father Damien's church. But
Hmm.
they exhumed him and took his body back to his native Belgium. But his right hand is still there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
So
so
more
there's,
images.
of course, this is a cemetery, and basically the whole settlement is, I think there are about 3,000 graves and many unmarked graves as well. So it's a lot of what you see are graves, and it's. But I want to emphasize that it's not just kind of the story of death and disease. It's also the story of the strength of human spirit and
Hmm.
perseverance and fight, because these people were isolated. They were left to their own devices, but they also kind of stayed strong. They found ways to find joy in their lives. They
And
had
adapt. Yeah.
and adapt. Yeah, they had a concert hall. They would watch movies. They would play games. This is a typical. This is their post office. So this was kind of their link to the outside world, because a lot of times they were separated from their families when they were brought here.
Okay. That's I'm speechless because I'm also really impressed and amazed at the work that you've done to document it. Because I mean, just this is really like stellar storytelling, stellar visual storytelling. And just looking at the comments, people are fascinated by the history, the story, your skills in telling it as well, and bringing so much heart to the artwork. Okay, and you have more stories for us. So let's jump on to the next one.
All right,
Let's go.
so a very different story here.
Mm,
This is the story of the famous border wall that's on the southern border of the United States with Mexico. And I started this project just earlier this year, and unfortunately,
wow.
it's obviously not finished. We all had to come back and shelter in place. But what's really interesting, once again, and the team told me, "Oh, all of your stories are so sad." So the border wall makes me sad. But the wall is just a bunch of steel, right? What's really interesting
Yeah.
to me are the communities that live on both sides of the wall, and how there's so much connection. A lot of times it's the same family that is separated by the wall, by the border.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there's just so much back and forth that's going on, because it's the same family sometimes. People from Mexico go through the pedestrian crossing. This is in the town of Nogales in southern Arizona.
Hmm.
They go
Yeah.
through the pedestrian crossing that you can see here in the sketch to shop for
Wow.
milk, for basic things, because produce and basic necessities are cheaper on the US side. So they just walk through with their shopping carts
Hmm.
to go buy their groceries. And businesses on the US side depend very heavily
Hmm.
on the shoppers, on the commerce.
Wow.
So
Wow.
when they fortify the wall, when they build the wall, when they make it harder to cross, those businesses on the US are the ones who
That suffer.
suffer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. And so there's passport control, I assume. It's not just a stroll
Yes,
right through. Yeah,
yes,
passport
yeah.
control, but like, they're just showing like here's my book, and then go get some milk, and then come back.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So
All
this
right.
is another example of a border, but it's not a wall. It's just only about 20, 30 miles east of where we saw a big wall in Nogales. So a lot of the border wall is actually just this kind of barrier that's mostly designed for vehicles. And this is a very agricultural part of the country, so there's a lot of ranchers and cows and things like that.
Okay. Okay. But I can
Yeah,
see how it's also, I mean, just looking at your sketches, it says the whole story. And it's so descriptive. So there's really
yeah.
all kinds. Go
Yeah,
on,
so this
please.
is another little town, a town of Naco, and it's very much suffered from kind of the situation and the hardening of the border. You can see there's houses that are adjacent to the wall are just so dilapidated, so
Mhm.
in a state of disrepair, and a lot of poverty in that part of the country.
Wow. Okay. All right. Going on. I mean, it's just so much to look at here. It's such a visual
Yeah,
delight.
so this is this is back in the
Go
town of Nogales. So just kind of you see shoppers buying clothes and shopping, and there are wonderful stories, of course, as a just because you are on the street drawing, you get to meet really amazing people through that. So
on.
in the town of Nogales, I met this business owner who owns a bridal. He sells wedding dresses on
Wow. Okay.
right
right?
on the
Yeah.
border. His shop is right next to the wall. So I was interviewing him, and I asked him why did his it's a family business. Why did his family choose to put the shop right next to the wall? Because
Hmm.
it has razor wire. It's not very pretty.
Yeah.
And it turns out that back in time, before the really toll wall went on with all the razor wire, it was a great place for business to show off dresses for people on the other side of the
Oh,
border, so
all right.
they could shop
Like
across across the
like
wall.
a teaser fluttering. Ooh, check me
Yes,
out.
yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Okay. Well, that's really good. We've got an excellent question here from Ludi.vc. What mindset do you start with to get and how do you do you hope to get something for yourself or learn something? So, good question.
The mindset. So
Yes.
I'll talk a little bit about that.
Hmm.
Well, maybe I should talk
Okay.
about it right now. Um,
Yeah, I think, yes. I'll do your manual
you
Ken
can,
Burns thing. So yeah,
yeah, you can.
you can you can explain. Yeah.
Yeah. So, how do you begin kind of with this way of drawing and telling stories? My advice is number one, look look inside of yourself, explore your passions. So, what is it that interests you? Because if you're not passionate about your story, about your subject, there's no way you'll make others interested in it. So no matter how beautiful your drawing is, if you're not invested in it yourself personally, it's not going to work. So number one, explore your passions. Number
Hmm.
two,
Hmm.
draw
Go ahead. Yeah.
with your heart.
Mm.
So draw, develop this affection and love for your subject. That really
Oh,
helps to tell the story.
that is
Number
so evident
three,
in this piece, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
number three,
Um,
keep it simple and keep it small. So start with something that you witness in your own community, and then don't think of big global issues. Think small, and then the story will kind of take you to larger
mm.
issues.
Okay.
And then,
That sounds really good. Go
yeah,
on, please. Yeah. No, go on, please. Yeah. Because I mean, you got one more story that I'd really like to get to, but yeah, it's all relevant. So go on. You do you have more points to expand on that?
the last point
Mhm.
is make connections. So think about
Mm.
not just connections with your subject, but think about
Mhm.
connections of what community you can serve with your drawings, and
Okay.
how they can help.
How they can help, how they can inspire, how they can bring about change. Really, really excellent advice, which leads us to this story.
Oh yeah,
Kindly tell us what's happening here. Yeah.
so this one is in my native Portland, and it's a story about the older, kind of aging LGBT community in Portland. So these folks
Oh,
were very active in the 60s, fighting for their rights. And now they're in their 70s and 80s, and they're still incredibly social. A lot of times they don't have a lot of visibility. They they're kind of, as aging population, they don't have a lot of representation, and they don't have sometimes don't have family to take care of them. So this was
mhm.
kind of to get to know them and to tell their story and to remind local governments and the society that they're still here with us.
Wow. And did you do an exhibition after that with all these
Yeah,
panels of work?
this was all part of an exhibit that we did. There were a lot of
Mhm.
creatives involved, and
Oh,
a large LGBTQ community in Portland. And through this
wow.
project, I got to meet the oldest working drag queen in the world. So he's in the he's in the World Book in the Guinness World Book of Records as the oldest drag queen who actually he has his own theater, and he does
Oh,
shows 3 times a week. still in his late
Oh,
80s.
that is so inspiring. I love that. Yes,
Hmm.
someone just, oh, Eileen from San Francisco. Yes, thanks for the story highlighting LGBTQIA plus rights. Yes. That's really incredible. And yeah, you've told us about how well you've brought so much to the table. What's your advice for sketchers who want to start documenting something, or like how do you start from zero if you have no clue?
So here's once again, explore your passions.
Yep, all those great bullet points quickly.
Draw with your heart.
Yep, draw with
Think
your heart.
small.
Hmm.
Think
Yes.
small, and
Hmm.
build connections.
Ah, okay. That sounds great. That sounds great. And okay, so and talk to us also about the positive impact that you feel comes from urban sketching.
Yeah, so naturally, since we draw a lot of architecture, cities,
Hmm.
what areas can we apply our skills to bring about positive change? And
Hmm.
one that comes to mind, of course, is historical preservation. So
Hmm.
focusing on buildings that are being changed or destroyed
Hmm.
as a result of
Hmm.
city planning.
Hmm.
Another is, of course, kind of urban planning and bringing attention to urban issues, making our cities more livable. If you
Yep.
like to if you like to draw nature, if you're into landscapes, naturally you would fall into conservation camp,
Right.
into issues like global warming and so on. So
Right.
start with asking yourself, what is it that really moves you?
Hmm. And really, in this day and age, there is so much to choose from. Find something that you want to improve and use your drawing and your sketching and your storytelling to see how you can spotlight that situation, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, I suppose that brings us to this then.
Yes.
Right.
So
Challenge
just to
time.
challenge time, get your pencils, sketchers. So one important thing to be the agent of change, you also need to be able to observe change, right? And
Hmm.
as sketchers, we're really good at this. We're good at observation, and we're good at documenting. So we're living through some incredible changes on many fronts. So start with kind of your immediate surroundings, your community, and tune into what is different, what is changing right now. So the previous drawing of the greens, you might notice that the greens, if it's springtime, are brighter this year because there's less pollution. You might notice that you can finally see the mountains on your horizon that you weren't able to see before.
Hmm.
You might also notice some changes in very basic things like grocery shopping, which is
Yes,
right.
this one.
Yeah, so
Right.
this is my typical neighborhood where I do my grocery shopping, and it's very different, obviously, the way we do
Mhm.
something so basic. So this is
Okay.
what you need to do. Notice
So
change.
basically, document, notice, observe, draw from life, and document the change in your life, in your community, in your city. And that's how you're going to highlight some good this week with our challenge from Rita. Okay, that sounds fantastic. Thank you so much. Quickly, if anybody wants to know, I just commented earlier. Can you show us some of your favorite tools, the size of your scope, and how you work?
Sure. So my sketchbooks are is something that I make myself. Here they are.
Picking up a tiny bit, but okay.
Oh, you're also breaking up. Sorry.
Um,
So
okay, I see sketchbook. Okay, so that's about an A4 size, it looks like. Um,
yeah, they always change based on
okay,
what paper I have at hand. But I like this
okay.
landscape format. And I use very basic tools because I need to be portable. A lot of times I draw while standing in a crowded place. So this is my kind of go-to pen, Faber-Castell,
Okay.
and my little watercolors,
Okay.
and of course the all urban sketchers use this water brush.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've given us plenty to
Nothing
think
fancy.
about. Nothing fancy. Yeah, keep it simple, and it's all about the story. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for being on the show, Rita. We've so
Thank you,
loved
Rob.
having you, and for listening to all these amazing stories. You've been so inspiring, and I'm sure we'll see you again.
We're thinking of
Rita
you
is thinking, oh, where's Mike? Yes, thank you so
for better
much.
times.
Yes, two better times when
We
we'll all
love you.
sketch happily together again. Thank you,
Yes.
Rita. Okay, see you. See you next time. Bye.
Ciao.
Rita, yeah, ciao. Rita is such a sweetheart, and she is also one of the brains behind USK Talks. She's very, very humble, and she won't say so, but she's the person who helps to bring all these wonderful guests together and thinks about what kind of topics we're going to cover, that sort of thing. So she's amazing. She does a lot. Okay, coming up next, we have Mike Daikubara coming to us from Charlotte, North Carolina. Mike is ready, and he is coming in strong from North Carolina. We are connecting. We're connecting. Yes. Hey, Mike. How are
Hey,
you?
hey, Rob. Good to see you.
Hey, so good to see you, Mike.
Yeah,
When did we meet, Mike? Was it in Manchester? The symposium in Manchester? Was that
that
the
was
first
the
time?
first time. Yes, absolutely
Yeah,
the first time. Yeah,
that's the first time.
yeah, and it's the
Mike
first time
is.
I took your class, your iPad sketching
Oh,
class.
that's right.
Yeah, so, yeah,
That's right. Yeah, that was quite
yeah,
some time ago. I
yeah.
remember us sitting and
Hmm.
sketching together and just chatting and
Yes,
having such a good time.
yes,
And
that was very good times.
well, I'm so glad to know you,
Yeah.
Mike. And I know you, but there are some out there who may not. Mike's got an amazing book as well, but Mike is also a fantastic sketcher who draws and draws and draws. He's extremely prolific. So, Mike, for those who don't know you, please tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, sure. So, Mike Daikubara. As a profession, I'm an industrial designer, design manager, currently working for a Swedish company called
Mm,
Electrolux, and
mm.
we have an office out here in Charlotte. And yeah, I'm responsible. I'm one of the managers responsible for designing appliances for like refrigerators and kitchen products. Yeah, it's a very exciting job. And yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot of things that about the design profession that's very connected with sketching. So that's where I
Mhm.
got involved with sketching.
Well, tell us a little bit about your sketching.
Sure. Yeah.
This looks like a familiar place.
Yeah.
We've
Yeah.
had some
So
seafood.
yeah, that was fun times. That was when I visited my wife's family out in Osaka, Japan. And we
Uh-huh.
took a trip out to an area in Osaka, probably a very, very famous place where this crab place is famous for their amazing crab food. And yeah, I was outside sketching and crazy
I didn't
populated place. Yeah.
I
So
didn't realize this
yeah,
was in Osaka because I
this
think
was
in Tsukiji in Tokyo, in the
yep.
old
Okay.
Tsukiji market, there is a giant crab as well. I
Oh,
thought that
there
was
is.
there.
Okay. Okay. So this one is the famous one where the signage kind of
Okay.
moves. Yeah.
Oh,
The
wow.
legs
Okay.
legs are moving. Yeah.
Gotta check
Yeah.
that out. And Mike's
Ah,
also known for his
yeah.
cars.
Yeah, that's a very recent sketch since the quarantine happened. So it's sketched from inside a car, sketching a car.
A car from inside a car?
Yeah,
Yeah, and you
yeah,
document also a lot about the local
mhm.
places that you are, because you've moved. You were in
Yes,
Boston, Massachusetts,
that's
and now
correct.
you're.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm in Charlotte. It's been
Uh-huh.
about a year and a half now, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's just urban sketching is just a great way to go outside and see the city and
Mm-hmm.
learn and meet people and yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
just
and
awesome.
taste local
Oh
delicacies.
yeah, yeah, local, yeah, very local. That's my wife's home cooking. She
Oh
made bread.
wow!
Yeah, so she made the bread
Oh
for
my
the first time.
goodness!
And
Uh,
meron pan is a very traditional Japanese bread, or very, very popular in Japan. And yeah, so she
oh,
made it for me. Yeah.
you're such a lucky guy, Mike.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I am.
Okay, well, we've got you here, and
Yeah,
what I really wanted to ask you to do is to tell us about the Urban Sketching Community Grant Program that
sure,
you got a grant
sure.
for.
Sure, yes. So the community grant, it was a notice I noticed or it saw it posted up in Urban Sketchers website a while ago. And I was just immediately attracted to it. There's so much about it that was attracting for a number of reasons. One is, as I mentioned, I had just recently moved out to Charlotte, and
Hmm.
it's a new location. My wife and I, we knew nobody. We don't know the place, and getting connected with the urban sketching community is a great way of learning. And
Hmm. Always.
so I got hooked up with the admin of USK Charlotte at the time called Jenny Sperry, a wonderful person. And
Hmm.
yeah, she got me hooked up with the community, and we started talking about this community grant. And originally, I was thinking about wanting to teach children and teenagers, bringing the joy about urban sketching. But Jenny was the one that came up with the idea, and she has a strong passion and working with people with special needs. And
Hmm.
that's where the idea came out of working with or bringing urban sketching to people with developmental, intellectual developmental
Hmm.
disabilities, and that's where this whole thing got started.
Okay, so
So yeah.
you basically took the program, you took your community grant, and you started you with Jenny. Thank you, Jenny. Jenny's actually on. She's been saying hi to a lot of people. Hi,
Oh,
Jenny. Nice to
yay!
meet you this way. Yeah. So you decided to take this and with Jenny work
Mhm.
with a special group of students. So tell us a little bit more about that and what you decided to do. How do you decide, like, how are you going to plan an urban sketching workshop with
Sure, sure.
people with special needs?
Sure. So yeah, that was a lot of communication back and forth.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
during this journey, Jenny and I, we met a lot of wonderful people too. We met Toby and
Hmm.
Sherry of Harvest Coffee, who really introduced us to Umar, the organization that are working with these people with
Hmm.
developmental disabilities. And from
Hmm.
there, we talked with a person named Ed, Lauren, and Isis, and
Hmm.
coordination on when is a good
Hmm.
time and how
Hmm.
where should we go, and it probably took a good 7-8 months before it came to fruition,
Wow.
because yeah,
Right.
it was that difficult to find a date where we could have everybody move, because transportation is one problem. Then in terms of what time of the day, because they have routine schedules, and
Right.
we don't want to
Sure.
break the routine schedules. In terms of moving mobility wise, we weren't sure in terms of, we wanted to make sure parking was easy, it was safe,
Hmm.
and it
Yeah.
was a nice walking distance.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how long it took. Yeah.
I can imagine there'd be a lot of
Hmm.
logistical things to work out. But what I'm curious about is what do you decide what to teach?
Yes. So yeah, that was a lot of thinking about that too. One is, well, it kind of ties into the great thing about the grant was that we were able to
Mhm.
provide all 100% of the supplies to these
Oh,
students.
that's
And yeah,
that's amazing.
yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, that was all paid through the Urban Sketchers grant, as well as
Hmm.
we received some sponsorship from our local. Well, they're here locally, but also nationwide. But a place art supply store called Cheap Joe's,
Hmm.
and I
Hmm.
met a person named Brandon, a great guy, and he hooked us up with all of these the watercolor palettes to give out to the
Hmm.
students. So the course started out teaching how to use them, because they were going to see it for the first time. A lot of
Hmm.
them, actually, I think all of them. It's like the water brush was the first time, watercolor kit was the first time.
Wow.
There's a lot of new things there. So
Uh-huh.
we started out with a very simple exercise of just creating colors and using the
Ah.
sponge to be able to change colors. Even just like basic things like that. You have to start out. Then we moved on to the next
Right.
exercise of starting to draw trees, as she's doing here, where we
Uh-huh.
drew an outline of a tree that we saw from observation, and used about three colors and mixed them on paper. And that kind of walks through the steps of how the trees were created. And
Oh,
yeah, it's just, those are just
that
great.
that
Yeah.
sounds really smart. So you get them
Mm-hmm.
in, so how long was the workshop for? The what? Was it like
Well, it
three
was,
hours or more?
yeah, it was about 3 hours, but it
Mhm.
also rained. There was also a delay. There were some transportation issues. So there, yeah,
And
yeah.
that happens to anyone, not
Oh
just any.
yeah, yeah. It was, yeah, but we made it through. That was the great thing
Mhm.
about it. So.
Okay.
Mhm.
That sounds excellent, and I love the pictures that you've supplied us with as well to see,
Yes,
and looks
yes.
like the
Hmm.
participants had a really good time as well.
Yes. So in the beginning, I wasn't sure what to expect. They came and it was, I believe it was at the time where they had snack time. So when I was teaching, they started eating their snacks, and I'm like, oh no, are they gonna pick up their pens or. But yeah, it's slowly they started picking it up, and there's some students that went right into it, and like that woman that you saw before, she was painting like 30 trees, and there's another person that was focusing on one and working out the details, and yeah, but
Oh,
it's
like this, I
yeah, oh
suppose.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, she was just like so into it, and yeah, this
Oh,
is that's a picture after it started raining. We moved to a shelter where we just happened to find a place where we could all move to, and it was raining outside, and we just had moved, and you would think people would be like, oh, I'm tired of it. Let's do something else. But they just didn't stop, started drawing again, without even me telling. And it was just amazing. Yeah.
well, we have a great question in the comments also, Mike. Someone
Sure.
just asked, could you give us an idea of the lesson plan, or maybe could you do a little Instagram post or something to give people
Sure.
an
Sure.
idea
Okay.
how to plan this?
Yeah.
Because I'm sure
Okay.
that a lot of the sketchers on today uh, are also involved in different kinds of communities, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure that yeah, people are
Okay.
saying this is so touching. Could you give people an idea how to go about planning something like this?
Sure.
And this would be a great time for you to go and check Mike's Instagram out, maybe in the next few days. That's Mike's tag. Go and check it out. Maybe just do a little post to explain, because I think
Got it.
that would be
Got it.
excellent.
No, no, that's a
Yes?
good idea. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let me show some more pictures. Oh, Mike sent us also this video. So tell us a little bit more about the day, Mike.
So
Um,
this was at the end of
and
the day. Yeah, they had gone through, going through the drawings, and I was able to give out my books to everybody. And a few of them came to me asking for an autograph, and this woman just like, started hugging me, and it was just so touching because, these were the students, in the beginning,
uh,
it didn't seem like they were even interested in what I was doing, but in the end, they were just all into the drawing, and they just opened up their hearts, and that's when it just like everything just pays off, and so
yeah.
uh,
I think they could obviously feel that
mhm.
you put a lot of heart into this, and I mean it's so moving. I think you've inspired a whole bunch of people today, and and I know you, Mike. You put a lot of heart into whatever you do. I mean, I'm not surprised that you got a whole bunch of hugs. That's
well,
really
thank you.
well. Tell us maybe very briefly, like what kind of challenges, apart from them like wanting to snack when it was time to draw and all that, what other kind of challenges did you come across
Sure,
when you were
sure.
working with these people?
Well, so this is, it was, I didn't know what to expect, but so one thing
Hmm.
I found out was that not everybody had, well, everybody had different needs in terms of, especially even like dexterity of the hand.
Hmm.
One
Hmm.
student had a hard time using the pen that we provided, which was the Pigma pen. It's a felt tip pen. If you
Hmm.
push on it too hard, you would just crush it. And
Wow.
so, yeah, we had to replace the pen twice and realize, wow,
Wow.
I should have
What?
thought about that, like, yeah,
These
so
pens? Yeah. Right.
yeah, those
Okay.
pens,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
so
Hmm.
it's stuff like that, or but in terms of like communication stuff, there were some students I was able to talk to, and some others I couldn't. But it was about showing and demonstrating, and
Hmm.
that's not different than working with a person that I don't speak the same language with, or
Hmm. That's
it's
very
like
true.
that's the great thing about visual communication. You could connect with anybody.
And have you been in touch with them since then? Have you like set up
No,
like good
no,
question? Someone's
no, no,
asking,
yeah.
do you,
Hmm. Hmm.
Do you have other sketch dates with them or something like that,
Well,
or an
we
idea?
had, well, yeah, the very next day, ISIS had contacted me saying that she received feedback from the students saying, they had a great day, they wanted to do it again, kind of
Uh,
thing, and they were
oh,
completely open to it, and I'm like,
yeah.
yeah, we got to do this again sometime. But that was the last kind of conversation I had with them.
Okay. Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure that'll be very much in demand, and you've inspired a whole bunch of people who are going to go out and try something like this. Maybe USK will do more community grants. And since a lot of us didn't know what they were about, your story today has educated everyone. So thank you so much for that, Mike. Now, I would like to ask you about this.
Yes, yes. Well, that's a very recent sketch. I just had my birthday, and yeah, it was a cake that my wife had baked for me.
Oh,
And yeah, it was just like many people, we had to stay indoors, and that was the way she celebrated for me. And yeah, that's part of the USK Talk Challenge that I like to perform.
okay.
Yeah.
Let's jump to the challenge then. Tell everybody what
Yes.
you want them to do.
Sure. So the theme here is celebrate good times. So we are living in difficult times right now, but I do believe as though there's a lot of things that you could even find, even in difficult times, of things to celebrate about. It could even be small things, as well as big things too, if you have any. We're staying at home. A lot of us are making bread for the first time, or cooking new recipes. Why not document that? Celebrate what you did. Or maybe it's a new hobby you picked up, a new instrument, or your child made something for you, or you planted
Mhm.
seeds in the garden and the flower and the vegetables started to come out. Yeah, document it, celebrate it. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you on what you have in terms of your celebration.
That sounds excellent. And I mean, for those of you who didn't catch it earlier, this is Mike's Instagram handle, as well as Rita's from earlier. So be sure to hashtag USK Talks Challenge and tag Mike. Tag Mike, tag Rita if you take up their challenges, not just this week, but subsequently. Sometimes, there's so many challenges, you might not be able to do them all. But anytime you do them, tag the guests, and I'm sure Mike will be happy to see what you've done. I saw an excellent question just now, Mike, pertaining to the project that you had also. What advice do you have for sketchers who want to bring something like this to a community and they don't know how to draw, they don't have access to regular drawing classes? What kind of advice would you have for them?
Wow, that's well. So in my case, it was a lot of talking with
Hmm.
people, just to understand the situation. Because I'm not a professional at teaching, it would have been hard for me to go to some place and say, "Hey,
Hmm.
let me show you. This is, I have all the solution.
Hmm.
I don't have the solution, but what I
Hmm.
do have, and what I believe I can offer is the joy of sketching on location and what it could bring to you. So that's
Hmm.
the part I always try to communicate and say I'm not a
Hmm.
specialist in drawing techniques or teaching, but I can communicate that. Is there a way we could work together to bring that joy to the community or to the students that you have in mind? And
Hmm.
let's brainstorm an idea. It's
Hmm.
it's two heads are better than one. I believe the
Yeah.
more of that is you come to a good place.
Yeah, and I like what you've done. I mean, it's really simple. I think many sketchers with different levels of ability also they can teach about color. I like the examples that you did about how to draw a tree and paint a tree, and you could see how much joy they had just painting trees. I mean, and with that little thing, you've introduced people to drawing, to how therapeutic it is. I mean, there's so much good that you've managed to get in there. So you would you say also that no special training is required in order to do something like this?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no special
Mhm.
training. Yeah, I think it's a lot to do with passion, and yeah, I wanted to share it. Yeah.
Pa- yeah,
Hmm.
passion, heart, communication, and a little bit of
Hmm.
planning. Okay, well, I would like, yeah, let's do the lightning round. Everybody wants to know favorite tools. So let's take a look at Mike Daikubara's favorite tools.
Sure. Favorite tool. I think I need to start out with here because this is what I carry with me
Mm-hmm.
all the time. It's a fountain pen. It's a fude pen for those people that aren't familiar. It's
Mm-hmm.
a nib that has a bend to it. It looks broken.
Right.
But yeah, this is all I draw. This is all I draw with, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah. And in terms of sketchbooks, yeah. So I carry two often. So these are by Stillman and Byrne. I've been using them for many years now, and I still can't find anything better than them. And it's one is called the Alpha series and one is called the Beta series, and yeah, it captures a lot of this Beta one captures a lot of yeah. Ooh, sorry.
Yeah, and it's a really good size too. So
Yeah.
so you carry two sizes with you,
Yes.
pretty much.
Well, no, they're the same size.
Oh, the same
except,
size. Okay.
yeah, except the thickness is different. And the reason why I carry this is that this Alpha series, it's a lot thinner and there's a lot more pages. And this is my daily. I go through this a lot. And the other one is a little thicker and it's a little more precious in terms of the paper, because it's thick. And so, I want to be careful about going, consuming too fast on that. So,
Okay.
that's the reason why if I could afford it, I would just carry Beta all the way. But it's too expensive.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm sure there are a lot of fans of Stillman and Byrne. I'm sure they're really happy to hear that. Okay. Well, Mike, we have a few minutes, so I'd like to ask you if you could speak a little Japanese
Oh,
and
sure.
do a quick summary and explain
Sure.
to us also about your challenge.
Sure, sure. どうも、はじめまして。今週のスケッチチャレンジは、僕のスケッチチャレンジは、セレブレート言うて、日本で言うたら祝うですね。祝い事。記念日にもっと近いかもしれません。例えばちょっとした日常での変化、で何か見つけた、その祝い事、記念日的なことをスケッチしてほしいです。こういう時期だからみんな大変だと思いますけど、例えば家で、パンを焼いたりとか、なんか新しい料理を作ったりとか、新しいなんか趣味を見つけたりとか、そういうようなことがあれば、できれば、そのスケッチして、その出来事を祝って、それで、見せてください。ぜひ見たいです。
Okay. どうもありがとう。
はい。
That's all I can say, but yeah, that was so good. Thank you, Mike. It's been really inspiring talking to you, and thank you for being on the show and for taking the time to explain all these things. Thank you for the inspiring challenge that is so relevant to our times. Draw something, celebrate something, document that, and post. Okay, Mike. So thank you again. Show me that. Yes. Look at that. I mean, I have to bring this up. Cheers, Mike.
Yeah.
Thank you so
All right,
much
cheers.
again. Okay. We'll see you again, I'm sure.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Thanks a lot.
Bye, Mike. Thank
Okay.
you.
All right. See ya. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya. Well, folks, that was our show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. We spoke to Rita. We spoke to Mike. There's so much inspiration. Please remember, if you're going to take part in the challenges, tag the instructors, tag our guests, USkTalks Challenge, and they'll come and check you out. There's plenty there's so much to unpack here. Go take a look at the video again. We're on IGTV. We're on YouTube in a few days. There's plenty for you to think about. Think about how you can bring some good to your society, to your community. And also another announcement to make is that we've got one more show at 4 p.m. GMT, USkTalks. After that, we are going to go back in time. Well, kind of. We're going to shift the time of USkTalks 12 hours earlier. So pay attention. It will be 4 a.m. GMT. And I know for some of you who are tuning in now, it'll be like, oh, it's a weird time for me. What we're trying to do with USkTalks is to move it so that different people around the world at different times can tune in live. So now it's midnight. It's now 1 a.m. in Asia, in Hong Kong. It is 5 a.m. in New Zealand. So we're going to shift the time so that it'll be daylight in Australasia and a lot of the Middle East as well. So check it out. Check your watches. We're going to shift the time in June. Please pay attention to that. And what can I say? Take part in the challenges. Be good to each other. Be kind. Stay healthy. Have an excellent week. Next week's going to be a really special show as well, as always. And I thank you all for so much for making my week special, for joining me. Good night.